Did you know the history of witchcraft from ancient times and the Bible to the witch burnings in the 16th century? Hello, welcome to Do You Know? Today I will talk to you about the relationship between humanity and witchcraft throughout history. Witchcraft is conceptually linked to paganism. Paganism is a religious concept used by Christians since the 4th century in the Roman Empire to designate the set of beliefs that did not belong to either Christianity or Judaism. The term was used to indicate the worshippers of the Greek, Roman or other gods of the empire, and who did not admit the belief in the God that Christians and Jews considered the only one revealed through the Bible. With the support of Emperor Constantine, at the beginning of the 4th century, Christianity becomes the only official religion of the Roman Empire. Religious changes occurred immediately in the vicinity of Rome, but took time to reach the most remote and less populated places. Rural areas were called pagus, and their inhabitants paganus. Paganism was originally a term that differentiated the religion of the peasantry. During the Middle Ages, the term paganism was applied to any non-Abrahamic or unknown religion, and the term alluded to a belief in a false god. This notion was valid for the following centuries. Magic, witchcraft, and the invocation of supernatural forces and beings to obtain certain results have been present in human culture since its very beginnings, and are still present in all current cultures. Since ancient times, various cultures have established punishments for people who were believed to cause damage by invoking supernatural forces and beings, as was the case with so-called black magic. Both in the Code of Hammurabi of Babylon, as in ancient Egypt, evil magicians were punished. However, there was never a massive persecution of suspected witches. In some cultures, misfortunes, illnesses or death are attributed to the gods, the devil, the demons, or the evil caused by a sorcerer. The Bible, especially the Old Testament, prohibits magic and divination, saying, "You shall not perform divination or magic," and establishes the death penalty for magicians, saying, "Magicians shall not let them live." This formulation was translated into the feminine gender by Luther, in a grammatically correct way, as "you will not let the magicians live." The Theodosian Code promulgated, for the first time in the year 429, a law against the exercise of magic. While in 534, the Second Code of Justinian prohibits consulting astrologers and fortune-tellers as being a depraved profession. The Council of Elvira, in 306, declares that killing by spell is a sin and the work of the devil. The Council of Laodicea also requests, in 360, the excommunication of anyone who practices witchcraft or magic. The Germans, before their conversion to Christianity, burned magicians who performed harmful enchantments. Charlemagne validated it with a law, probably related to the pagan practices of the Saxons, against whom the king was fighting in the 8th century. The hunt for people who practiced witchcraft began in Central Europe at the beginning of the modern age. Basis for the massive persecution of women, and less frequently also children and men and even animals, by the church and above all by civil justice, was the idea of theologians and jurists of a conspiracy of the devil to end Christianity. The witch hunt begins between the years 1420 and 1430. At that time, the belief spreads that a new enemy of Christianity has appeared. Witchcraft, which differs from traditional sorcery due to the intervention of the devil. The beginning of the witch hunt must be related to a new conception of the devil that develops in Latin Christianity, as a consequence of the economic, social and cultural crisis caused by the Black Death and the religious crisis. In 1430, medieval miniatures appeared that represent scenes of the Sabbath in which witches and wizards appear worshipping the devil, turning into a male goat, with whom they copulate and celebrate a night banquet in which they drink, dance, and children are eaten. The main element of the witch hunt is the indictment, which is defined as the accusation or denunciation that someone makes of a reprehensible fact. This is about acting against a clandestine group. The priests and the preachers warn of the danger of witchcraft, and encourage the inhabitants to denounce the neighbors who they believe responsible for their spells of some evil that has affected them, the loss of cattle, the death of a child, the destroyed crop due to frost, etc. Those denounced, by at least 3 people, or as a result of a public rumor, are handed over to the court of the Inquisition, made up of a papal inquisitor and a bishop. They are interrogated under torture to make them confess their crime, and to reveal their alleged accomplices. The process could last up to several months, during which the accused remained in prison. The condemned are burned at the stake. They are condemned to the stake because in this way the punishment is not only physical, but also spiritual, since they will not be able to participate in the final judgment. The persecution of witches in modern Europe occurred mainly in Central Europe. They were based on the denunciation of supposed followers of the science of witches. The persecution between the years 1450 and 1750 was an ecclesiastical action against heresy. Mainly it was a phenomenon of mass hysteria against magic and witchcraft, which turned magic into a crime and resulted in recriminations, denunciations, public lawsuits in mass and executions. Recent investigations showed that witchcraft used to be suspected in old women and in the socially weaker people. At the beginning, the witch hunt was directed by the ecclesiastical courts and inquisitorial judges, but in the 16th century these were replaced by the secular courts. In a papal decree in the year 1484, the existence of witches was recognized, thus repealing the canon episcopi of the year 906, where the church held that belief in witches was a heresy. In 1657, when thousands of people had already died, the church condemned the persecutions. Regarding the victims, the University of Geneva affirms that out of the 110,000 known processes between 1580 and 1640 of witch hunts in Europe, lay judges sentenced between 60,000 and 70,000 people to death. 75% were women. Regarding what happened in the British colonies, we could say that North America inherited the persecution of witchcraft from Europe. The most popular case occurred in the state of Massachusetts, precisely in the city of Salem. Witch trials were not unusual in the British colonies. The first recorded case was that of Ulse Young, in Connecticut, in 1647. Between 1647 and 1692, about 20 cases occurred in New England, with the main focus in Boston and Springfield. The trials began with the accusations of Betty Paris, daughter of Reverend Samuel Paris, and her cousin, Abigail Williams. The first arrest warrants were signed on February 29, 1692, and 3 women were arrested. Tituba, Sarah Osborne, and Sarah Good. Tituba was a slave in the Paris household. Sarah Osborne was a landowner who was hated by her neighbors because of her lack of faith in the community, and Sarah Good was homeless and pregnant at the time of her arrest. Osborne, who was too ill to take the stand, and Good proclaimed their innocence throughout the proceedings. It was Tituba's testimony that convicted all 3. Tituba sought with her testimony to draw the court's attention away from her husband, John Indian, whom some of the Salem residents accused of being one of those who caused afflictions among the neighbors. This was only the beginning, and soon the accusations became massive, as some neighbors used the panic to avenge their own conflicts against their personal enemies. In 1693, more than 150 people were arrested and imprisoned, only with accusations. However, They were never formally prosecuted in the county court. 5 of the defendants died in prison, and the 26 people who went to trial were sentenced in this court. Allegations of hallucinations and demonic contacts arose among a group of women in the Salem community, but serious procedures were never carried out to obtain evidence of these practices. Almost all the accusations were based on rumors. The justices were swayed by the religious hysteria of the Salem community, made up largely of Puritans, who demanded convictions for alleged witches. Many theories have tried to explain why the community of Salem had this delirium of witches and demonic disturbances. The most widespread insists that the Puritans, who ruled the Massachusetts colony with virtually no real control from 1630 to 1692, were going through a period of mass hallucinations and hysteria, caused by religious fanaticism. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. It would help me a lot if you subscribe and tell me what video you would like me to do. Goodbye.